Friday, the final day of the week. These are the voyages of the program Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Its ongoing mission to explore strange new movies, to seek out new bits and new edifications, to boldly go where no radio program has gone before. Oh, Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club. Elkent's Movie Club. It's Elkent's Movie Club.
That was one of the rare shows, that and Rockford Files, where I would watch to the ending credits because I liked the theme music. I love the theme music so much. The Star Trek theme and the Rockford Files theme. Hello, Kent.
Hey, Kent.
And the Rockford Files was just a flat-out great show.
It was. I'm starting to realize now that my mom may have had a crush on James Garner, just because she was the one that always watched the show. I just came in and watched the opening credits and the ending credits, but it's like that was one of her favorite shows too.
Perfect.
I never watched it.
Yeah,
so
it's
I have
too
no
old.
I have no takes. I'm sorry.
Well, if you can find it out there, it's really a great series.
Yeah,
it was a L.A. private detective that lived in a trailer on the beach, and very little was worth the effort that he actually had to put in to solve the crime or whatever.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny and really a good show.
It was dramatic, but it was funny at the same time.
A dramedy, you would say.
A dramedy.
Ooh.
Which is kind of, or at least when it was on the opening screen, kind of the theme of our movie this week. It was listed as a comedy/drama called Mid90's. This is only a couple of years old, but it's streaming now on Amazon, and this is the directorial debut of one Jonah Hill. Of course, most famously known for Superbad, among other things.
Yeah.
And this was your choice, so...
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, the movie, you know, just a little background, it is almost like just kind of a hangout movie. I mean, there are plot points, but there's really not a plot. It's just more about the lives of these kids. I guess the general plot would be a young kid likes skateboarding. He sees some skateboarders a little older than him, you know, and wants to kind of be a part of their group, goes to the skateboard shop that one of them works at, kind of gets into the club, and in a way, a coming of age movie, so to speak. It's set over the course of a few months. You know, as this kid kind of learns from these people, and you know, as the movie progresses, you can see that things are continuing to get worse. The relationship with his mom kind of starts getting worse and worse. And that's the movie. I mean, there are plot points, like I said, but it's more about the vibe of the movie. It's more about the era. Obviously, the name of the movie, Mid90's. It is set in the 90s. And interestingly, and I had this written down, Kent, it's shot in 4:3 the entire time. So it's a full screen movie, which, you know, as one of the characters has a camcorder basically the entire time, it reminded me of when I was growing up, and my friends and I would do a lot of the dumb stuff that we did. And one of us would have a camcorder, we'd record it, then we'd watch it back, whether it was skateboarding or making fake movies or TV shows or whatever it was. And so, yeah, I guess, did I miss anything? I think that's kind of a general setup for.
Yeah,
for
I mean, it's kind of the tale of a kid who feels a little out of place at home. You know, the mom's a single mom. The brother's kind of abusive.
There we go. We got to leave that. The brother is important.
Yeah, the brother's pretty abusive. In fact, the opening scene is the brother coming into his room and kicking his butt. And so he's looking for acceptance.
Yes.
And
it's odd too, because it seems like his brother is also looking for acceptance.
Yeah, and we realize that he's the classic bully. You know, a lot of bullies, you know, they've got their own issues, and as we find out, he was kind of a loner as well.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think you kind of nailed most of the plot points there in the movie, and it is set in 1996. Now, we were talking about this earlier, Kent, and yes, there are some obvious things that tell you that it's not set in today times, but it wasn't, I didn't feel anyway, it was very over the top in terms of placing you in the mid-90s. What did you think?
Well, it didn't go too hard at doing that, but if you look at things like that, soundtrack was mid-90s hip hop soundtrack, period, right? And what this really was, let me back up before I go for Jonah Hill and Russell Brand came to Lincoln for reasons that I have never figured out to promote that movie, Get 'Em to the Greek, in 2010.
Horrible movie.
Horrible movie, but they came and I spent, I guess, one whole day and part of another hanging out with those two guys. And sometime in the midst of that, I think when we actually did our formal interview, Jonah told me that he had this movie that he'd written that he was trying to get made. And that was the mid-90s, turned out to be. And he talked about how he had taken these things that he'd seen, right, when he was growing up, because he's about the age of the older kids, actually, in the movie, and kind of written it down, right? But this isn't an autobiographical movie, but it's based off of what he saw and was part of in that sort of skate culture in Southern California. So he incorporates that, but he does it in a way that it kind of, how do you want to say this? The mid-90s thing only adds some flavor to it, right? The story, the ideas would stand up today, right? Yeah. The other thing, and this isn't original to me, I would like to have said this, but it's clear from watching it, if you're a film critic type person, that this movie is really influenced by the French New Wave filmmakers of the 60s, like Godard and people like that, where it was very naturalistic, very much not hard narrative driven. As you were saying, it just kind of showed you this life. And so all of those things kind of spin together. And I thought it was, because of that, all of those things, I thought it was pretty well done and a kind of an impressive debut for Hill as a writer and director.
Yeah, I thought one of the things that I really liked about it, Ken, I wrote it down this morning, was I thought that it had an awesome balance of, and I'm not that much younger in the mid-90s than the main character is. I'm probably a few years, 4 or 5 years younger than him. I thought I had a great balance of like the innocence of being a kid of that age, wanting to fit in, and also in the case of this character and the lifestyle that he thought he had to lead, trying to be maybe tougher or older than you actually are. Like early on, one of the other characters does something for him and he says, "Thank you." And the other character's like, "Hey, you don't say thank you." And so there's like this idea of you can't be nice or you can't show love or affection or any of these things.
Yeah, that shows weakness.
Because it shows
it's
weakness.
Not cool.
And then later in the movie, a different character is like, "What are you talking about? Of course you can say thank you." And I thought that was so cool because I remember one time with me, I was in a car with somebody and I buckled my seatbelt and he made fun of me for buckling my seatbelt. And so trying to be cool, I unbuckled my seatbelt to gain acceptance from him. And I look back on that, of course, what a moron I was. But I kept thinking of things like that because I was always that kid that was trying to be cool and like, oh, I would hang out with the kids that are considered cool. And so I found that very, very relatable throughout this movie. And I thought, like you said, it's really a movie about busting balls the entire time. It's about talking trash to your friends and how there's like a hierarchy in how some people are going to be accepted and some people just never will.
Yeah.
And that's why it works, because you can relate to it. I could relate to it, and I'm way older than those kids, right?
Yeah.
They capture something about that kind of thing and with the cool kids and all of that. And then they have it has the specificity of the skateboarding sort of culture.
Yep.
And I thought, watching it now, what is this, a 3-year-old movie, something like that?
2018.
So I probably saw it 3-4 years ago. I thought the skateboarding scenes were really, really good, and I hadn't remembered that from before.
The one thing about it was, and I was a little worried about how the thing was going to end. I thought the end was good for what it was. And we're not going to spoil anything here, obviously, if you want to see the movie. But I was a little concerned in the outset that there wasn't many redeeming values in any of these characters, especially early in the film, except for the main character, Stevie. Sunburn is his nickname, because he's obviously the innocent little kid. But as the movie grew older, went longer, the Ray character, who is I kind of consider him like the leader of the group. He was he appeared to be the oldest in the group.
Best skateboarder.
The best skateboarder. He kind of provided the moral center of the film. He was the one who told him, "Hey, it's okay to say thank you."
Yeah.
And he was the one who told the other character who we
can't say his name.
Can't say his
that was what I was going to say. And how are we going to mention the other guy?
Yeah, FS is how we'll mention him.
There you go. Yeah.
As he's losing control, Ray is trying to settle him down and center him and make it better. So I thought the movie, as it grew older, you started to see the more redeeming character or redeeming values in this gang of kids who are obviously, they all come from some interesting backgrounds. They've all got issues. They've all had issues in their family. One character, their brother has died, and others, one is very impoverished, and so there's just a lot of different issues. So I liked how everything kind of came to an end in this film, even though honestly it didn't relate much to me, and kind of similar to you, Kent. I mean, we obviously weren't skateboarding back in the mid-90s, but it did help kind of bring everything together at the end. I suppose the one thing that when I hear coming of age films and I see comedy / drama, and of course you hear Jonah Hill, you think, this is going to be something more along the lines of Superbad, more along the lines of Fast Times, more along the lines of Porky's, all these coming of age films from different generations. This one was not that.
No, it's definitely not that.
And so when it said comedy, I don't know about you guys, I didn't find there weren't a lot of laugh out loud scenes to me in this.
Yeah, it was more like a smile or a smirk or a little chuckle.
Well, there were a few though, like when our hero SF and his mom get into it. That's a pretty funny scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because he's talking back to the main character's mom, because the main character's mom doesn't want her little boy hanging out with these ruffians anymore. So,
but you're right. It's not what I call a punchline comedy.
No, definitely not.
But I think that was the intent all along. I think in fact, had it not come from Jonah Hill, it might not have got that comedy drama tag, right?
Yeah. Because it was much more drama than it was. Much more drama.
Absolutely.
So is that part of it for you? Like you went in with a certain expectation and it didn't.
A little bit.
It just wasn't interesting.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think, Stibbs?
I liked it. I mean, I remember thinking, I didn't have that expectation. I knew what type of film it was going to be.
Yeah.
I remember thinking I was the tiniest bit disappointed because of the same reasons John may have been. Just the fact that I appreciated it for what it was and for the points that it got across that we've all talked about. And I enjoyed all of those moments within it. But yeah, I remember the end coming and being like, oh, that's it. Okay. I mean, it's fine. I liked it. I did love I thought the acting was incredible, which I don't think we had mentioned. I thought the kid
acting was awesome.
Did incredible. All of them did, but especially Stevie. He was awesome.
And he got a couple, I think, award type nominations or whatever.
Like Josh said, I mean, me and Josh are the same age, and I related to him as well. There's always like you talked about the seatbelt thing. I can't think of any in particular, but there were always something that the group of kids I was hanging out with were doing that
you knew
wasn't good or wasn't nice or what, like nothing horrible, but something dumb, some little dumb thing that I was like, okay, you got to be a little little S head,
Yeah.
in order to be cool, I guess. And then 5-10 years, however many years later, you realize like, no, like that guy just sucked. Like,
Yeah. And along those lines,
so it was very relatable, and the kid did a great job of the facial expressions and the feeling left out. Like you could feel it. It was really well done by him.
Yeah, in a way, for those of you who've seen The Wire, season 4 of The Wire is the storyline is about kids at a school in Baltimore, and like there's one scene in this movie in particular where they're being accosted by a security guard, and if you were to walk by in that moment in time, you would think these kids are punks, and I don't want anything to deal with them ever, and they have a long life ahead of them. Meanwhile, later in the movie, as we're talking about two of the main characters, the leader and Stevie, they're talking, and especially when they were skateboarding in the middle of the road, even though they're breaking a law in that moment, it comes off of a very heartwarming moment in a conversation between those two. And I thought of The Wire season 4 at various points, because if you catch somebody in a maybe on a bad day, or a kid on a bad day, you might think, wow, this kid is lost and nothing good is ever going to happen. But they're still people too, and they can still have moments where they say or do something that we could all learn from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that the movie, I don't know, I thought it had a really nice balance of showing them as people I would never want to associate myself with, and as people it's like, oh yeah, in the end they're just friends that want to hang out and shoot the breeze.
I think that's true. I will say, in regard to what you guys are talking about with the ending, I think that was, you could see that was, he kind of wrote himself into a corner, right? And had to kind of figure a way out of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to discuss this without actually giving it away.
Yeah.
But he wrote himself into a corner, and that is a sign of a first time or second time screenwriter, right? And maybe he could have used somebody working with him on it to kind of, because when you're the writer and director, you got nobody else in there saying, maybe we ought to change this, or maybe we ought to drop this part out.
Yeah.
So that was what struck me watching it this time, is that he kind of, it was going this way, and he kind of wrote himself into a corner that he had to get out of to have an ending. Otherwise, it would have just kind of ended.
Not to go all film school 101 here, but isn't one of the basic premises of screenwriting is you write backwards, forwards? You have the ending, you know what the ending is, and then you work backward from there?
To some measure, yes. Yeah, depends on yes, you at least have an idea of where the narrative is going to end. You may not have the exact thing set up, but yes.
But you know where you want to get to.
Absolutely.
You know at the end you want this guy to get over, or this guy to get defeated, or whatever. Whatever.
Most films, not all, but most, start with what they call a treatment, which is essentially a 1-page summary of, here's the plot, right? Here's where we want to take this story. Here's where it's set. Here's the kind of tone that we want to set up with it. And that's where most start. And I think he probably didn't have the complete ending fully worked out. And he was the writer director. And this was a $1 million movie, $2 million movie.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
So he was able to get the financing without having that, sort of more nailed down, because he was Jonah Hill. And for a first movie, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it. Also, one more thing, when he lands an ollie and he like loses his mind, even though it was like the tiniest ollie of all time, you got that was once again another relatable moment, because I remember the first time, maybe one of like 3 or 4 times ever, that I was able to pull off an ollie on a skateboard. I was like, oh my gosh, and I just lost my mind and ran around. So I thought that was a nice touch too.
Realistic, and it really did capture some of these kids' lives. He has not made another movie since then, but I just read that he's going to make a documentary about his therapist. It's
interesting.
Very interesting.
I wonder how his therapist feels about that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
That is. I'll be curious to see where that goes. I'm also curious to see where this goes. I saw this story. Josh actually brought this story to my attention earlier this week. Of course, we're rolling through, what is this, 9 different Fast and Furious films now? Is it we're up to F9 or something?
Yeah,
The director of F9 was asked if he would ever want to see a cross-franchise film with Fast and Furious meets Jurassic Park. And he says he's not ruling it out.
well, it would be about as realistic as either one of those franchises already is. So why not?
That's true. Yeah, are the Fast and the Furious movies that much more, realistic than Jurassic Park? Hell, some might say Jurassic Park's more realistic than Fast and the Furious.
It's not a horrible. I would watch that movie. I'm not like it would get people. Everyone who already watches both of those will watch it, and it'll get people like me who just be like, I have to see where this goes. Like, I have to watch that. And I haven't watched a Fast and Furious movie since like
I've still
3.
never seen one.
You've never seen a Fast and Furious movie?
I've only seen the first 2.
Well, they got worse. I'll tell you that.
Shocking.
Didn't they get a little bit better again and then bad again?
And they got a little better again and then went right back downhill.
Yeah.
But the first one was actually pretty good.
I liked the
was
first
cool.
one. Yeah.
Was the second
And
one
while
Tokyo
Paul
Drift?
Walker was still alive, they were decent movies. And then once he died,
Yeah.
It all kind of went with him.
Yeah.
Right. So we decide we can't do the one you originally wanted.
Yeah, I don't think we should.
Okay.
That's fine. I've got
so do you have
another
a
one.
substitute?
Yes, I've been wanting to see this for a while. It's on Amazon Prime. It freaking better be. It says it is. With a subscription. Sound of Metal.
oh yeah, it's on there and it's great. It's an
Sound of
Oscar nominated movie.
Yeah,
for
it's
a
got the guy from remember was it The Night of?
Yeah, on HBO.
The miniseries about
Ahmed.
Riz Ahmed. What's his name from his lawyer was hilarious. I know you watched part of it, John.
John Turturro was in it.
Turturro.
He had like a weird feet. Something was on with his feet.
Yeah, he always had like powder on his feet.
Yeah, and he
was messing
ended
with
up having to go to Rikers Island, and because he got arrested for. He was
Um,
also in Rogue One, I believe.
But it's about a heavy metal drummer who starts to lose his hearing and how his like life spirals after that. Apparently,
Sound of Metal.
Sound of Metal.
And it is really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I will happily watch this one twice in 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is. So
Good to know.
All right.
Awesome.
Sound of Metal. It's on Amazon Prime.
Just sent out a link.
Super. All right, Kent. Well, thanks again. And we'll look forward to next week and we'll review The Sound of Metal.
sounds good.
All right.
Later, Kent.
There he is, Kent Wolgamott of the Lincoln Journal-Star. And if you miss this, you can catch all of these segments not only on our radio replay, but if you follow our YouTube channel, Stibbs TV, you can also see these segments.
Yeah, you can see what we look like.
Yeah,
Very cool.
Not that that's a reward, or you can watch me
Speak
as
for
I
yourself.
look up and see that the Cubs are losing.
I thought
Oh,
you
it's
were about to
5-2
drop
now.
a curse word at one point during the interview.
Was it when I put this up on the screen?
No, it was
No, I'm not.
Steve, you jerk.
Steve, I know how the Cubs are going to do.
Steve
this year.
commented on YouTube, "Hey John, how do you
Poorly.
think the Cubs are going to do this year?"
Poorly.
Yeah.
They're going to do poorly.
And I may or may not
Under.
have posted it onto the live stream.
Bet the under.
Oh yeah, 5-2.
Cubs
right now.
wins and the under.
At least I'm going to win some beer out of this.
There you go.
That'll be fine. Speaking of beer, it is One Beer Friday.
Yes.
You can start sending us your picks anytime into the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, hashtag One Beer Friday. And we will continue with more of Unsportsmanlike Conduct after this on 1620 The Zone.